Greetings, welcome to Sophie's Voice. Here I am, me and my singing bowl in my bedroom. In my studio. Welcome and thank you for being here, and I hope you'll stick around as we talk about a few things that are going on in the world and in my world and in your world. And please like and subscribe and do all those kinds of things that you're meant to do, because, you're good people and you're going to support me. Yes, and comment. Yeah, comment. Please give me comments. So tell me what you're thinking and if it's of interest or anything that you would like me to talk about that you think might be interesting. All right, so I was going to start off by talking about in recent weeks, I made a post and I talked about it on the podcast about that I was going to be uncontroversial, sort of like I was going to be like not engage in controversial topics and get into arguments online. So I don't consider I get myself really into arguments, but I do like to I've had strong opinions about things, and I spend a lot of time thinking about things and researching in my own way to sort of understand the bigger picture of life and what life is and what the meaning of life is. And so I do it in my religious understanding, my Christianity, my spirituality, my every dimension of life I find fascinating, and I like to look into it and understand it and try to attain wisdom. So that's my motivation. But I found, the online environment, of course, creates spaces, especially when you're just communicating through text. It creates spaces where people just like, and it's not necessarily conducive to really resolving anything or really having meaningful discourse, which I think is really valuable. And that's what I'm trying to do. I really want to keep conversations opening and happening, because I think if people really want to know truth and reality, and then that's the way you do it. That's the way I feel like you do it. You've just got to keep having conversations, keep listening to people, keep trying to understand. And that's one of the things I've really appreciated looking at Charlie Kirk a bit now since his tragic passing, that I really appreciate that he was doing that he was keeping conversations open, and that he said that as soon as conversations stop, that's when violence starts to happen, because those feelings kind of well up. I'm adding my own thoughts to this, that those, if you haven't got a way to properly communicate with the people that you have a different opinion about, you start to get a separation from them, and also those emotions need to find expression if it's not through conversation and discourse. So yeah, I think it's really important. But then, so since I got sort of drawn into a controversy, so it's something that I feel is really important in the times we're living through, and in a sense can't be avoided. And so it's about the whole Israel-Palestine business and Gaza. And I guess it's taken me a while to get my head around what I think is going on. Of course, nobody really knows if you're not there, and even people that are there are going to have different opinions and different experiences. But the more I've delved into it, the more a picture starts to form for me that I understand, with a whole lot of other realms realms of understanding that I already have. So, yeah, I have my own kind of understanding of what's happening, that it's sort of connecting into other things I've researched, and a picture is forming that feels very convincing to me. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I had a bit of a back and forth between a friend, and ended up with some sort of emotional reaction in the end, and a sort of a rejection. So hopefully that will be resolved, and once the emotions settle down, we'll be able to kind of reconnect. But it does pose the problem of what you do about this if you know that your opinions or your beliefs are potentially going to upset other people. Well, you don't really know, do you? It's just like, how do you walk along saying, I'm this and I'm that, don't come near me if that upsets you. Or do you, like, I don't know, I don't know, I'm not expressing myself very well, but I was just thinking about, like, how do you, like, I quite often, I feel like I keep my opinions to myself and just sort of stay open and interested in other people, and only bring up, my thoughts if it's relevant or if it comes back up. But one of the things that happens is that people feel sort of safe with you, because they don't understand that you have got strong opinions about things and you have got beliefs that maybe are different to theirs. And as far as I'm concerned, that's okay. But it can cause problems. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, my brain's a bit scattered. All right, come on. So anyway, that's happened, and but what it's done for me is it's made me feel more, a bit more passionate in a way of just like, I can't help it if it offends people or ruffles people and makes them feel whatever about me. If some things are just too important, some things you can just sort of go, whatever. But some things are really important, and I guess I sort of feel like we're living through such a incredible and crucial and interesting and amazing point in human history, and that it's really important to talk about it and to be able to express your opinions. And so yeah, what I've been watching all the stuff about Charlie Kirk. That's been really interesting. Even tuning into a bit of his debates, and I find them really interesting. And yeah, it's just been it really sort of feeds you. It's really interesting, those videos. I was watching last night, just watching the last one that he did before the tragic event, but the last university he'd been to before that, if you catch that, it's all very interesting, and it's, yeah, just really cool to see those conversations and those big important things like abortion that I feel like a lot of young people have been brainwashed into thinking things that are absolutely insane and make no sense. And so it's really good to test your thinking out, like, because you want to make sense. You want to think good thoughts. You don't want to just think things because you're in with a certain group and you've all agreed on thinking something. You've got to be ready to be challenged and change your thinking if you can see that it's that you're believing error and that you're not logical. And yes, so it sent me on a bit of a tangent about Christian Zionism, because the interesting thing about the Charlie Kirk thing is that it's not only is he a Christian martyr to a lot of us, we're seeing him as like, wow, he's like a Christian martyr. He stood up boldly and talked about Christian values and his Christian faith, and that he has stirred up a lot of hatred from people that find that really pushes their buttons. And so there's that side of the Charlie Kirk thing, but then the other side is the stuff that's coming out about how he was starting to have some critical ideas, certainly about Netanyahu. I just saw something, I haven't read it yet, but apparently they've published his letter, his last email to Netanyahu, so that will be interesting. I'll have to have a look at that. But that he reportedly did not like Netanyahu, found him, was really put off him, and it's reported that Netanyahu was wanting him to offered for him to come to Israel again. So this is something. So there's all these layers to what's happening with this. What we're all getting to sort of understand more about the way Israel operates, which we didn't understand. And so there's all this sort of understanding now about how there's this AIPAC, which I can't remember what it stands for, American Israel something policy, something, AIPAC. and that they are a big, powerful lobby in America. I don't know. I'm not claiming to really understand all the ins and outs, but I just know that they are very influential, and that all the politicians have APAC minders apparently that kind of feed them information about how to support Israel and how to do the right thing by Israel. And there's lots of layers of blackmail and bribery and what's the third one? Blackmail, bribery. Can't remember. Blackmail, bribery, coercion. I don't know, but anyway, intimidation. Yeah, threats and intimidation maybe. That keep that that's starting to become clear how much control they've got over things, and not only that, but the Epstein files and Diddy, which has been sort of put to bed a bit, but it seems to be all connected to the same kind of thing that is CIA, but it seems like CIA is compromised, and it's very much an extension of the Mossad, which is the Israeli secret service or intel agency, and that they have been running lots of programs of drawing people into what they call a honey trap. So drawing people in, people of power, in compromising them in sexual situations that they are ashamed of, and compromising them and entangling them in a kind of a lifestyle of the elite that keeps them in this sort of loyal to that lifestyle, and so consequently Israel, because it seems to be linked to the whole thing is Israel. And there's the how Charlie was starting to have some criticism, have some questions, and that he was experiencing this dramatic pushback from the donors, the Zionist donors, and that he was starting to be, they were starting to be very angry with him and call him anti-Semitic and etc. And he was a bit outraged by that. And so there's all this sort of uncertainty. It's like, if he couldn't be blackmailed and he couldn't be coerced and he wouldn't go against his integrity, couldn't be blackmailed, couldn't be bribed, couldn't be coerced, couldn't be intimidated, then there's this idea, well, what do? These powerful people that are in these very elite positions that need to be able to control these key players, they have to be got rid of. So a lot of people are like wondering what's really going on with Charlie Kirk, and that because he was a formidable force, and he clearly was going to go on to be something. If he had lived, he would have. It was extraordinary, the escalation of what he was doing, and so powerful in the connections he was making, and the rapport he had with people, and the way he was influencing the younger generation. And there's no doubt that he would have gone on to be probably president of America ultimately. But I think the people that really run the world behind the scenes can't have people that have too much integrity or cannot be controlled. They have to dispose of them, and it seems to be coming out that that's what happened with JFK. So not that he was. I mean, he was a sort of morally compromised man. I think he sounds like he kind of was not necessarily virtuous in all areas, but he seemed to be a man of like, and he was standing up to the Israel lobby at that time, and just trying to put some limits on what they were doing, and how they were able to use money to control American politics. So yeah, it's all very interesting. I don't know if anyone else is following all that. I'm finding every night I'm going in. So it's not only that layer of like what's gone on with Charlie's change of heart, because he was a staunch Christian Zionist, and has been passionately supporting Israel for all his career. But he was just starting to say, maybe we've stopped the war, like maybe this is not good. I don't know, different things. But so that, and then that leads on to, so I wanted to talk about Christian Zionism, and so there was there's the whole controversy about what actually happened, who killed him. There's the controversy about him potentially turning away from Israel. And then the third area that I find that is stirring up an interest in me, and I think generally, I think all these areas have stirred up awareness and understanding and interest, and that is Christian nationalism, you might say. So I think a few of us, and I talked about it, I think last week or the week before, I can't remember, a few of us came aware of the feeling at the memorial. There was a lot of emotion, and I didn't watch it all. I just saw little bits, but it just had the bit of a feeling of like a Nazi rally or something. That's the thing I said last time. And I'm just trying to think of what it is that made me feel like that. And I think I remember hearing years ago about religion, because people were saying how dangerous religion is. And so many atrocious acts are done in the name of religion, and that somebody had said that it's not religion, not true religion, not when people go deep into their religion, but when people have shallow religion and then it unites to nationalism, that's when it becomes dangerous. And that's what I'm concerned about, and I think it all relates to Christian Zionism, and why I'm so concerned about Christian Zionism, because I think it's antithetical to a true understanding of Christianity, what it's actually about. I was going to read some stuff. So I was looking into sort of trying to understand the difference between patriotism and nationalism, and that so George Orwell says that patriotism is devotion to a particular place and a particular way of life, and that nationalism is the habit of identifying oneself with a single nation or other unit, placing it beyond good and evil, and recognizing no other duty than that of advancing its interests. That's George Orwell, and I thought, wow, that's interesting, because that's kind of what Zionism seems to bring out in people, in my opinion. That's what I keep seeing. That there's something about it's something very disturbing about seeing Christians sort of like, hurrah, hurrah, Israel. Isn't it wonderful what they're doing, and isn't Israel beyond reproach? And sort of blinkering to if you just have to look beyond the smoke screen. If it's like cult thinking, you just I'm only going to look at what Israel's telling me because they're beyond good and evil. I've just got to follow them no matter what. And so don't look beyond that smoke screen to see the other stories of what they're really doing outside of that image they want to project, and keep people bound to that image of what they're doing and who they are, and the most moral army in the world, and all these kinds of ideas that are, to my mind, it's dreadful propaganda, and that they are masters of propaganda, and so the mixing of, so to me, Christian Zionism is kind of like the mixing of this kind of nationalistic position with Christianity, and so using Christian ideas to sort of cover for actually a very unspiritual religion that is about power, about... I'll read a bit of this because this is kind of interesting. The Jewish scholar Yaakov Ariel has argued, especially in America, Christian Zionists have turned into a pro-Israel lobby that uses its political power to promote policies favourable to the interests of the Jewish state. Christian Zionists have actively lobbied for both the return of Jews to modern-day Israel and for an end to the existence of the territories administered by the Palestinian Authority. They oppose the Middle East peace process because they oppose a physical division of Jerusalem or of Israel, according to Dr. Clifford Kurikoff, a former advisor to the US Senate. Christian Zionist groups that fund Israel settler communities have been criticized by the United Nations Security Council for providing support to settlement communities that are considered illegal under international law. And that's a whole topic, but I won't try and explain that to anyone who doesn't know, or whatever, people got different opinions. So this is interesting. So in 2006, the Anglican, Catholic, Syrian Orthodox and Lutheran churches leaders in Jerusalem published a letter known as the Jerusalem Declaration on Christian Zionism, which outlined their opposition to Christian Zionism as a false teaching. The letter states that the alliance of Christian Zionists with political leaders has led to unending cycles of violence that undermine the security of all people in the Middle East and the rest of the world. I'm just going to click on that, the Jerusalem Declaration on Christian Zionism. So this is 31st of August 2006. And they start with a scripture. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Christian Zionism is a modern theological and political movement that embraces the most extreme ideological positions of Zionism, thereby becoming detrimental to a just peace within Palestine and Israel. The Christian Zionist program provides a worldview where the gospel is identified with the ideology of empire, colonialism, and militarism. In its extreme form, it places an emphasis on apocalyptic events leading to the end of history rather than living Christ's love and justice today. We categorically reject Christian Zionism or Christian Zionist doctrines as false teaching that corrupts the biblical message of love, justice, and reconciliation. We further reject the contemporary alliance of Christian Zionist leaders and organizations with elements in governments of Israel and the United States that are presently imposing their unilateral preemptive borders and dominion over Palestine. This inevitably leads to unending cycles of violence that undermine the security of all peoples in the Middle East and the rest of the world. Anyway, it goes on. I haven't read it all, but this is in 2006. So this has been going on for a while, and it just, the more I look into it, the more I feel that, this has been the plan all along. I don't believe that the true Zionist core, which includes obviously these Christian Zionists, have ever had an intention of having peace. They just are playing a political game, and that they ultimately their goal is to claim the Gaza and the West Bank as all just under Israel, and to get rid of the Palestinian people and have a sort of an ethno-state, an ethno-elitist state. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The go towards Greater Israel, so to take the lands around them. If anyone's seen those images of, they've got a plan to take the land around them. I can't remember all the countries, so I don't want to misspeak, but and I sincerely believe that, from what I understand and what I've read about the world, that there is an intention to rule the world from Jerusalem, to have a Zionist state that is the head of a global government. That's what I believe. So that's where I think I push some people's buttons, but I don't, it's like, I actually believe it's true. So like, it's either true or it's not true. So that's why we've got to keep the conversation open, because there's just been such a lot of intimidation of people thinking about things and looking at things and understanding things that are not in certain kind of line with certain kind of powerful bodies. Anyway, I think I've done my time. I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. All right. God bless. See ya.